the first team that we're going to kick things off with, a Mercedes. I mean, why not? I mean, obviously, not quite the season that they would have hoped for, but here they are, folks. The lineup for Mercedes for the brand new PSGL PC Championship is Jarno Opmeer. The Flying Dutchman returns alongside the All-Star Jake Benham. Of course, Jarno Opmeer, champion back in Season 27/28, Season 29, came home in third in Season 30 with, in total, across all championships, 9 PSGL PC F1 race wins and 18 podiums to boot. Jake Benham, competing in all 3 seasons, his best result finishing third in the championship back in Season 29 with 2 podiums, both of them being in Season 29 as well. What do you make of this lineup, Jack? These two, of course, together in the final event of F1 Esports, and they're gracing us with their presence here in PSGL as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got to look at, Jarno, he's a 2-time champion in this series. Obviously didn't quite get the championship under his belt last time, but obviously we did end up having a shortened season in that regard because of some clashes and some issues and stuff. But he was still mathematically in the championship fight even in that late series. So great to have him back on the grid as always. I mean, Jake Benham he didn't have a great season last time out. He finished 14th in the driver standings last time, driving with Haas there, but again, there was a lot of focus on F1 Esports at that time as well, so can't take that as a true indication of Jake Benham's pace. And you got to just take 4th place in the season before that and 3rd place in the previous one as well. So Jake Benham bringing in some real talent into this alongside Jarno Opmeer. That is a very, very strong lineup, and a definitely, possibly, well, you can't deny it, they're probably one of the favourites going into this. Well,
you would fancy them to certainly do well after the difficulties in F1 Esports, though. Jarno Opmeer scoring probably one of the greatest wins of that championship after that dramatic ending to the US Grand Prix in F1 Esports. Obviously, we'll look to see whether they can pull off anything to try and get that championship crown yet again. Could be Jarno's 3rd title at the end of this championship. Right, next up is McLaren, and of course, looking at this bunch, they will be looking to try themselves to certainly secure an opportunity to hold on to their major crown too, because of course it was Lucas Blakely who would go on to win the PSGL PC Championship. But this time, it's Wilson Hughes. Of course, we were just talking to him last time, and Barry Burremand alongside him as well. 2 great stars. Of course, Wilson now with a huge chance to try and nestle in an opportunity at scoring something for McLaren himself. Not to mention Barry Burremand, who tends to have a great trend of picking up race wins at the start of a season, Jack. We witnessed, remember, prior, getting wins in the first 3 races, not only in the first season of PC Championship, but he also came back in latter seasons, challenged the likes of Jarno Opmeer. He took the first win in our last championship when Lucas Blakely would, of course, win the title. But Barry Burremand back again, and I'm sure he'll have the crown weighing heavily on his shoulders. He'll be looking to try and take that for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, Barry has come second on 2 occasions in the championship now, in the first season of this and last season. Well, again, probably in the most dramatic fashion that he lost that title as well on the final lap of the season, really, was where Barry Burremand lost that, coming second to Lucas Blakely, of course. But again, Wilson Hughes, last season he was one of the standout drivers, even for me at least. He was incredibly consistent. He was always getting through into Q3. That was so important. His qualifying was really up there. So himself and Barry will be a very, very strong contender. But you have to feel Barry, I mean, how long has he been trying to finally get this title under his belt now? And this is a golden opportunity once again. I mean, we can already probably make the prediction that Barry's going to win the first round because he always seems to. But maybe that trend will change. If he doesn't win the first round, maybe he'll go on to win the title. Who knows?
Well, you know, some people say never back the early kickoff, but there's one thing you can back, and that's Barry Burremand at the start of a season. So wait and see, folks. Of course, a winner on 7 occasions in total across all 3 seasons that we've had the PC Championship, and 13 podiums, becoming runner-up in Season 27 and Season 31 to both Jarno Opmeer and Lucas Blakely, respectfully. Wilson Hughes, of course, chasing his first crown as well. Still yet to secure a race win, but has scored a podium as well, despite being part of this championship for all 3 seasons. For 2 seasons. He joined the PC Championship back in Season 29, has always been a contender in PSGL, but of course taking the PS title during season 27. If you remember that big fight between him and the great Duncan Hoffland as well, who is also an Aston Martin Academy driver. Next up is Haas, and of course Thomas RONHAAR takes the helm alongside that of Matthias van Erven. I mean, what a pairing that we have there indeed. Certainly two faces that you would have seen certainly fighting it out for points. Thomas RONHAAR going for slightly more than that, actually securing P3 in the Drivers' Championship in F1 Esports, not to mention numerous wins. How about as well his form in esports too, his league racing esports form, to say the least. He scored some great results over the past year or so. The new game has certainly been a revelation for him, Jack. I'm certainly looking to see him perform well this time. And without a doubt, RONHAAR, a real potential star this season in PSGL.
Absolutely, yeah. And you have to say, well, judging off his performances in F1 Esports, he's definitely one for the title contender this season. Is Thomas RONHAAR. I feel like Matthias van Erven hasn't quite been able to show what he's capable of. We know how quick he is. Didn't really have a good season in F1 Esports, really. And maybe now that F1 Esports is over, we're heading into PSGL now. Maybe this could be a resurgence in form for Matthias van Erven in Haas right there. A great lineup with the two Dutch counterparts right there, but definitely Thomas RONHAAR, definitely a tip for the title for sure. So we could already sort of see possibly our title contenders starting to line up now. We have Jarno, we have Barry, and we have Thomas RONHAAR, and maybe someone else mixed in there. We don't know yet, but definitely Haas going with their normal lineup, I suppose, but maybe a chance for Matthias van Erven to show what he can really do.
I think so, and I tell you what, they won't be on their own. AlphaTauri also naming a strong squad. Let's see what they've got to say the least. Let's go across and see. AlphaTauri have brought in Tom Manley and Ruben Pedreño. Now, two young faces that we have seen previously in the world of PSGL, not to mention league racing as a whole. Ruben Pedreño has certainly been on an almighty rise during this game cycle, has seemed to be hitting the top end, the big numbers. Tom Manley as well, one of the, should we say, academy stars around the world of Red Bull racing. No surprise to see him line up for AlphaTauri. You have to say, Jack, if you look at the undercard, or the underbelly of this actual roster of lineup of drivers, you could cite AlphaTauri as one of the main dangers.
I think so too. These are guys who are out to prove themselves on what they can do. This is an opportunity for them to shine. Ruben Pedreño has been exceptional in league racing lately, and I think this is a great opportunity for him, as well as Tom Manley. I mean, the two of those guys are absolutely brilliant talents, and nothing to lose in this PSGL F1 season, but a real opportunity to show what they can do against the very best. We know how quick Tom Manley is. We know how good Ruben Pedreño is. This is a really exciting lineup. I'm really excited to see what they can do against the established names. And
these are two drivers that could well put themselves on the market for certainly some teams. There are plenty of teams out there that are already chopping and changing, obviously alluding to what Ferrari have been up to in recent times. Obviously with Donoso leaving, Tanitsa leaving. Nonetheless, we'll have to see whether those spots get filled. Not to mention, there's likely to be movements, certainly movers and chasers heading around the rest of the esports lineups. But we're going to move on now to Williams as well, because obviously we've got some old favourites here too. Daniele HADDAD and ALVARO CARRETON, two names that we saw fighting it out this season in F1 Esports. They mark their return once again to PSGL. CARRETON, who has also been here since season 27, was actually third in the championship in our first ever season, had fought on many an occasion with Jarno Opmeer, Barry Burman, Danny Moreno, and many others as well up at the top end. But back again this season, obviously looking for an upturn in his fortunes. It's been a difficult time for CARRETON in recent seasons, but looking to try and counter back now, and Williams have got a lot of support for this lad.
They really do. Like, CARRETON has always been there, always there on the pace early on. If we remember back even to the start of this game cycle, he was one of the he took pole in the opening social race immediately out of the gate. So CARRETON is never one to be written off. And Daniele HADDAD has been on a resurgence. He's been very quick. He's been thereabouts as well. So Williams have a very solid lineup there. CARRETON's got the experience. HADDAD's got the experience. An incredibly experienced lineup when you look at it as well. They've got a lot of F1 esports experience behind them, a lot of league racing behind them for many, many years. So Williams definitely one to watch. I think one to keep your eye on in this championship as well, as they'll be out looking to prove what they're known for. You know, they didn't have the greatest F1 esports season, but now PSGL, maybe this will be the return to form.
Could well be. Both of them the top point scorers for the Williams team this season in F1 esports, marking their return here to PSGL. Great to have them back, and we will wish them all the best. Next up, we will be going over to Alfa Romeo as well, folks, so stay tuned for this one. Dani Bereznay comes back and steps in alongside Tomasz Paradzic. Again, these two who were, of course, together as part of the F1 esports lineup for Alfa Romeo, and they are marking also a return here in the world of PSGL. Great to see them here, and looking forward to seeing what they can do. Of course, Tomasz Paradzic, I tell you what, we've seen his actual ascent to the top. He has been on the scene for so long, Jack. We almost forget how young he really is.
Yeah, you think he's been around, but he's been around for so long, but he's still an incredibly young guy, but is now full-time on the PSGL grid. We've seen him around for a long time. Obviously, was part of that Alfa Romeo lineup alongside Nicolas Longuet and Dani Bereznay as well. And just like McLaren, really, this is a chance for Tomek to show why Alfa Romeo went with him as well. That he is up there to compete. Dani Bereznay, of course. What more can you say about Dani Bereznay? He's an incredibly quick guy, incredibly consistent, and we'll see what he can do in this PSGL season in the upcoming weeks. But a solid lineup, of course, and maybe that might be surprising to one or two people at home tonight.
Yeah, Paradzic is actually claiming a podium last time out in his, well, certainly last season in PSGL. Of course, they went to Japan, picking up third place in that race at PSGL. Not to mention picking up some solid, well, he was certainly fighting for points, managed to secure one, but also Dani Bereznay picking up 24 points for the Alfa Romeo team. It almost looked like a return to form for Dani Bereznay, especially when we headed to Japan in the world of F1 esports. He was absolutely tremendous. We'll look forward to seeing how he gets on this time when we go racing here in PSGL. Next up on our list is the Ferrari team. Let's take a look. It is Alfie Butcher stepping in, the young pretender who's looking to try and rise to the top alongside Fabrizio Donoso, the ever-experienced Fabrizio Donoso, who has been on the F1 esports scene since 2017.
Yeah, Donoso has been around since the very beginning. Now, that probably will be a surprise to some at home, because if you've been keeping up to date, Donoso has officially left Ferrari. So this is one I expect to change during the season as well. But for now, Fabrizio Donoso is still part of that Ferrari lineup. But Alfie Butcher, great opportunity for this guy. Super quick, and a young guy out there looking to prove himself to those F1 esports teams and show what he is capable of, alongside the most experienced guy on the grid, Fabrizio Donoso.
Yeah, also took his teammate from last season, Brendan Lee, all the way to the end back in 2017 in the very first F1 Esports Championship. Of course, it would be Brendan Lee taking the plaudits on that occasion when himself, it was Lee, Donoso and Sven Zerner in that final event at Abu Dhabi. Of course, Donoso ended up becoming the runner-up after getting a penalty on the final lap, and therefore handing the race to Lee on a plate. But this time, he's going to come back for the Ferrari team, and certainly Butcher, you might cite this as an opportunity for Alfie Butcher. If he can beat his teammate here, not only that, try and score some major points, he could be top of the list for many teams out there.
He could, and this is exactly what we're here. This is what we're all about at PSGL. We put the young guys, we put those guys who aren't yet affiliated with any F1 esports team, we put them on the big stage and see what they're capable of. So Alfie Butcher, he's got a task really now. He's up against Fabrizio Donoso, and let's see what he's doing. I reckon he's going to be up there. So definitely one to watch, Alfie Butcher.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how he gets on, Jack. It's going to be sensational. Next up is Alpine, of course, and they are returning with their two esports juggernauts, Patrik Schippos and Luke Smith, queuing up here for the Alpine team, looking to try and score the big points for them this season. Patrik Schippos, in many ways, a sensation himself, coming in to the prior esports events, league racing as well. Remember, taking podiums, race wins, not to mention other necessary plaudits as well, was sensational in PSGL in seasons gone by, not to mention league racing as a whole. Luke Smith, also vastly experienced when it comes to league racing as well. A pretty strong lineup for Alpine, and I don't think we've seen the best from both Schippos and Smith in recent seasons.
No, I don't think so. I mean, Alpine are sort of trying to rebuild in a way that, they lost their most experienced. They lost Donoso and they lost Longuet, two very experienced guys. And obviously the reins have been handed over to Patrik Schippos and Luke Smith, two young talents who obviously are incredibly quick. We've seen SIPOS win here in PSGL. I can forget that brilliant Silverstone victory a couple of seasons ago, and Luke Smith in and around there as well is Luke Smith. So this is an opportunity now to get some more time and still try to build themselves up after a sort of a mediocre F1 esports season. But these guys are trying to. Obviously, the number one seat was almost handed to Patrik SIPOS after the Donoso and Longe left the team. So there is a lot of work to be done at Alpine, trying to build up from the ground up, really, with these two talents. But this will be an opportunity for them to show what they are capable of at Alpine.
Yeah, Patrik SIPOS taking the victory at Silverstone. You're absolutely right, Jack Canham, back in season 29. So we know that he's capable of scoring the big points. We'll have to wait and see if he can do it again this season as well. Moving onwards, Red Bull are up next. Let's take a little look at their lineup. Marcel KIEFER, a fan favourite, comes in alongside the star, or should I say one of the breakout stars of the last 2 years in F1 esports, one of the rising talents that we have seen overperforming, should we say, what we necessarily expected. He also secured my third qualifying prediction out of 3 when we went racing at Abu Dhabi in the finale of F1 esports. Josh EDOWU steps in alongside KIEFER, and that is a dream lineup, some would say.
That might raise some eyebrows, don't you think? Josh EDOWU at Red Bull, eh? So what we've learned over the years here at PSGL is that some placements aren't by coincidence, ladies and gentlemen. Remember back when Barry suddenly switched into a McLaren in the middle of the season, and he told us in an interview, oh, it means nothing. A week later, he ends up at McLaren. Yeah, so let's keep an eye out for Josh EDOWU. But this is an incredibly strong lineup. Marcel KIEFER and Josh EDOWU. Remember, it was AlphaTauri of F1 esports last season. Could have potentially been promoted up to the first team. We don't know yet. But for now, he is going to be representing the Red Bull brands in alongside Josh EDOWU. Of course, last season it was is taking the place of Freddie Rasmussen. Big shoes to fill in PSGL here, but an incredibly strong lineup. We know Red Bull are always there, thereabouts, and Marcel KIEFER now back with something to prove.
Yeah, well, Josh EDOWU finishing in the top 10 of F1 esports, 7th place with 62 points, finishing ahead of two-time champion Brendan Lee, not to mention beating Sebastian Job, his AlphaTauri teammate at the time, and Marcel KIEFER, his teammate obviously here, and also the Red Bull driver as well, Marcel KIEFER, finishing on 35 points. It was a season to remember from Josh EDOWU, as I said before, taking pole at Abu Dhabi. But I have to say, it's not the first time that he's graced us with his presence and scored big as well. He's also been a sensation in league racing, and at a very young age as well. If some of you may remember, he was Veloce Surprise all those years ago. He has been on the radar for esports teams for an awfully long time. We'll see how he gets on. Could be a defining season for Josh EDOWU. Let's find out. Obviously, next up now, Aston Martin. Last but not least in terms of the team lineups, and Joost Noordijk stepping in for a first official PCF1 appearance here at PSGL, with John Evans lining up alongside him, of course, competing in F1 esports last season, and also making an appearance in green here in PSGL as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to see Joost making the step up into PC F1, see what he can do in Aston Martin, of course. And John Evans, he's almost a staple now in F1 PC. And yeah, let's see. Obviously, I don't think there's really any expectations on them going into this season, Aston Martin, and an opportunity for Joost to show to show himself on PC and really, prove why he's been placed in PC F1 alongside some of the best in the business. And yeah, John Evans, of course, will be out to improve on his previous season and looking to get more regularly into those points positions. Yeah,
John Evans, obviously a talent. We've seen him before in the world of league racing, and certainly if he works hard, as long as he can apply himself, he can certainly score the big results and is a danger. Joost Noordijk, who we got to see in the All-Star event, also one of the up-and-coming stars as well, that certainly graced his presence in the world of consoles, has scored the big points, the big results as well, and I'm sure he will not be afraid to tackle some of the best in the business out there. So that is your Aston Martin lineup. Last but not least, we do have the reserves for the season as well. We've confirmed these lineups too, and you can see here that Philip Prejnader, Nicolas Longe, Shanaka Clay, Manuel Biancalila, as well as Simon Weigang and Georges Nader as well, line up as the official reserves for this season. So Longe is stepping in for the odd race, not to mention Shanaka Clay, of course. You've got basically Alfa Romeo and Williams there right in front of you. Manuel Biancalila, of course, for Aston Martin, Weigang for Aston Martin as well, and of course Prejnader, who unfortunately broke his toe in the final event of F1 Esports, couldn't compete, so had to step out. Georges Nader as well, with a great chance should he have a chance to race, because he's been superb as well on console. He also steps in to the PC world as well.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll get a chance to see Nader on the grid at some point as well. Opportunity for him to go up against some very quick guys as well. But you can sort of see that some of the full-time guys in F1 Esports moving to reserve roles, obviously trying to take some time away a little bit as well. So some of them don't want to jump straight into back into league racing after all of the hours put into F1 Esports. So this is, we will see, I'm sure, an appearance from Nicholas Longay, from Shinakatay, and all of those guys, Manuel Blanca, Simon Weigang. So plenty of talent in the reserve lineup as well. And who knows, maybe someone who's not on that reserve list may have to step in at some point. We could see some other names hop in during the season, but some great lineups, a mix of young talent, a mix of established names. I mean, it's a perfect breeding ground for talent.